Alrighty, shout out to Isley Brothers. Who's that lady? Anyway, all right, let's go ahead and take an inside peek of this iGPSPORT iGS800. Hey, if this bike computer is good enough for Chris Froome, then it's probably good enough for your boy Patty. So let's go ahead and get this inside. Also included in the package was this out front bike mount. I have plenty of these, so I don't need this, but let's go ahead and see what's inside the package. And I will say this package is a lot bigger. Pause. This package is a lot larger than some of the previous models from iGPSPORT. So we got that. Very nice packaging. Let's go ahead and get this open real quick. Like so. All right. And let's see what we are working with, guys. Let's see. Alrighty. Very nice packaging. Looks really, really good. So we have the unit itself with the package covering, and this is a really nice touch here. You can't see, but the dog ears or just the mount, it's actually made of metal versus the plastic mount that has basically come on every single bike computer that I've ever used. It's always been plastic, especially the Wahoo Bolt version 2. So it's nice to see the metal dog ears. That's really, really nice. What else is in here? Got that. We have, oh my goodness, there we go. All right, we have, I'm assuming this is the instructions. We have the manual there. We have, what is this? This is the cable to charge the unit. Pause. What else? What is this? What do we got here? This is a rubber casing, so in case you just happen to drop the bike computer, the edges will be protected by that rubber bit. And finally, I'm assuming this is an additional mount, probably a mount for your stem. And yeah, it has the safety latch, which I definitely will be using, as well as some additional mounts if you want to mount this to your stem or the tops of your handlebars. So we'll take this off. Let's just go ahead and try to start this right now. Let's see how quickly this loads. Now my Wahoo Element Bolt version 2, the color version, that thing takes like 30 seconds to load up. So let's see on the first try. Let's see how quickly this starts. And 0. Whoops. All right. And 0. 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000. Okay, well I gotta set it up. So we're doing English, time zone. Okay, let me go ahead and get all of this stuff set up so we can continue on with the video. Now, one of the really nice features with this brand new iGS800, besides the size of it and its color display, it also includes physical buttons as well as touch buttons, which is really nice. I myself prefer the physical buttons because especially during some of the colder months, where you're wearing gloves, you don't really want to be faffing around with a touch screen because it just makes functionality just a little bit more cumbersome. But it's nice that iGPSPORT included options for both. So we're going to set the time here. I'm in Central Time CST, so it's GMT is -6 hours. And now it's asking me to scan this code to download the iGPSPORT app, which, as you guys can see, I already have the app installed because I have used some previous products from iGPSPORT anyway. So we'll do it 2 miles, get that set up. Of course, we're doing feet, elevation. All right, Fahrenheit, because I am a Trump supporter. We'll do 24 hours, that. Whoops, gotta go back. Adios mio. Yeah. Okay, so it's basically set up. So then the only thing that I have to do now is essentially pair this computer to my smartphone, and then I'll be able to begin all the functionality regarding setting up my pages and then getting all of my AMP Plus devices like my radar light, my heart rate monitor, of course, all my power meters across all my bikes, get all those things paired so that I'll be able to take this out on the road and see how it actually feels to use on a day in and day out basis. Now, I'm doing all this in real time here, guys, so bear with me. So now that I have everything up and powered on the computer, the next thing is to actually sync it to my smartphone. So it's really easy. So within the phone or the app on my smartphone, there's just an option to pair a new device. You go to click on it, and then it's going to find the GS800 device right there because it's sending out a signal. So you go ahead and hit connect, and then it's going to start pairing everything to my phone. Now, the great thing is in my case, because like I said, I've already used previous computers from this brand. My personal profile is already set up. Do I want to send notifications on my phone to be shown on my display? No, I don't. I don't need to do workout settings. It's going to do Wi-Fi, all this stuff. So it's going to connect. And then, yeah, once it's connected, I'll choose my Wi-Fi, of course. When all this gets connected, then I'll be able to set up the pages on this computer, like I said. So it's very, very straightforward. It's pretty intuitive on this aspect. And for someone like myself, I don't require a lot of different custom pages. I just need to be able to see my regular data points day in and day out, because that's all I really care about. But we will see if I'll be able to set up some custom pages for some of the things some of you viewers out there might be looking for in a smart device at this price point. Now, next up, moving along, we are at the point where we can now configure all of our different pages. So by default, these are the various pages that are set up by default. So your first page here, which it's a really nice display that they have on my smartphone. So you can kind of see what it's going to look like on the actual device itself when you are out on your ride. So the first page is sort of your general functions. You have the pencil icon up top, which is what allows you to edit each of the individual pages. But by default, you're going to have sort of your general all around overall ride. Currently, actively, next page is more geared towards if you want to do a lap counter. I actually use a lap counter feature a lot when I'm doing my intervals. Then you have more comprehensive power display. Then you have another sort of overall data points for your ride. Of course, you have the maps for navigation. You have your climbing feature. I'm also interested about trying out some of this elevation stuff. Again, more power data. This is kind of for your heart rate, where you're focusing on your workout. That gives you the average speed for all of the individual laps if you do use this feature. And it's nice too, is because you can actually set the duration of the laps, so that if you don't want to have to actively press the lap counter, you can set it up where, say, every 5 miles that you ride, it will automatically go to the next lap. I don't like that feature. I like to be able to manually do it. And then, of course, it gives you the climbing feature. This one is a really nice feature because some of the lower tiered versions of this bike computer from iGPSPORT does not have this feature. So this is a nice one to have. I do have some rides coming up this summer, which do have some pretty decent climbs on it. So I will be interested to try this feature out on the road. And then this is another feature that was very important for myself. So it's kind of like this active Strava COM or KOM sort of feature where what's going to happen is, and I've already spoke to iGPSPORT about this, now, as long as you have a route mapped out and loaded and you press start on your route, you'll be able to use this feature where my assumption is as you are approaching a local Strava KOM, it's going to let you know where you are at as far as your distance and your effort in order to get the KOM for that segment. I'm interested to see how well this works. So I will be setting up some local KOMs and save them and load them into my device to see if it actually works in real time. And then this final page, I guess, is for your train glow to kind of let you know. I know people who are really data driven for like on their Garmin or some of the other like training peaks. They care about this stuff. I don't really care about this stuff. I mean, just go out there and ride your freaking bike. But if this stuff is important to you, good for you. Okay, let me just briefly talk about some of the features on this iGS800 version from iGPSPORT. Now, I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to be as comprehensive and do much of a deep dive on this device as, say, the likes of like a GP Llama. He's fantastic at that. And if you do want a true deep dive on this, of course, you can go visit his video for further details. Mine is more of just an overview from just an everyday rider's perspective. But for this version, this is, like I said, from iGPSPORT, as you can see. The retail on this is $360 USD, which is a little bit pricey if you are comparing it to other Chinese branded bike computers. However, this is their flagship version. This is their pro version of this computer, and it is competing with the likes of flagship versions of Wahoo as well as Garmin. I don't know what those flagship models from either of those brands cost, but this will come in a little bit cheaper than those. And so with this Pro version or this flagship version, you get this very large screen, which I think will come in handy, especially on the longer endurance days out on the road. You get up to 50 hours of battery life on a full charge, which is crazy. I mean, you know, I've used some of the earlier versions from iGPSPORT, other models, where the battery life will last like 2 weeks. It's crazy. You figure, you know, those were like 30 hours or so. So for this being up to 50 hours for how much that I ride, say I ride like maybe 12 to 13 hours a week, I should be able to get technically at least, I don't know, almost 4 weeks of battery life on a single charge. Also too, some of the other features, like I've mentioned, you get both physical buttons as well as touch screen as well, which is a really nice feature. And just overall, it feels like a very solidly built device. Of course, you get the the lanyard to protect it in case it falls off the mount. You get the metal dog ears, like I mentioned before. You get this rubber case. So they really position this to be a really nice top of the line bike computer, competing with the likes of those that cost a little bit more. So for $360, you do get a lot as far as what I can tell, as far as perceived quality. And some of the other features as well that comes with this packaging is, like I said, you get the real-time live Strava KOM feature. You get the real-time climbing feature, which I really like, to let you know your distance to the top of any given climb, as long as you have those climbs routed into your route, and as long as you have loaded onto your bike computer and you are actively on that route. Beautiful summer day in Chicago. It's about 66 degrees in freedom units. We have a light wind coming from the east. Right now, currently we are at the Adler Planetarium, a fantastic museum, which, as you guys can see out in the distance, you get this amazing view of Lake Michigan, fantastic view of the skyline. If you do happen to visit here in Chicago, Illinois, as the out-of-towners like to say, this is definitely a place that you should stop by. You can just easily park your car or take an Uber, and you'll get these amazing views, a lot of easy and safe walkable lakefront, perfect for dates, large or small groups. So make sure you keep this place in mind, Adler Planetarium. So first up, I want to just get all of the negatives when it comes to this device right out the way from iGPSPORT, because I do have like 2 or 3 negatives to this device. These negatives may not affect you in your day-to-day riding, but there are things that I consider, especially if you are out there venturing into new territories in your neighborhood. These will be kind of important to you. So the first one, when it comes to just the route navigation in general, this is with how the software is designed, just the user interface in general. So if you have already started your ride, say you've just left your house and the starting point of your navigation is far away, and say you haven't loaded up the start of your navigation, it's kind of clunky to get through the menus, either through your device or even on the mobile app itself. It's kind of clunky. I've noticed on my Wahoo Bolt, it's really easy to set up. On the Wahoo Bolt, basically once you load up the route, it's going to ask you, do you want to go to the starting point? You either click yes or no. But on this one, you have to switch through a bunch of different menus on the computer to find the route that you want. And then if you do decide that you want to be directed to the starting point of your route, unfortunately, it takes a little bit of time for the computer software, the RAM, whatever, to load everything up. So you're kind of stranded on the side of the road until you get stranded, or until it loads up everything. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the live segment, or the KOM segment that they have. Now, I understand that it probably costs some sort of money for iGPSPORT to work with Strava in this particular instance. Now, of course, it'll upload to your Strava profile, no problem. But when it comes to the KOMs, there are no KOMs. There's no Strava KOMs. iGPSPORT has already said that that's not the case. So you can create your own segments within the app, but they have nothing to do with the actual Strava comms on the Strava's website. So you can set up your personal best, things like that. But the problem with using this feature is, number one, you have to like physically draw in your segment within the app, but it will only allow you to pull and create segments from previous routes and rides that you have done previously that have been saved and uploaded to the iGPSPORT app. So you can't pull it just out of the blue from a map. Maybe you can do it on their website. I haven't tried, but as far as creating this within the app or on the computer, it will only pull from rides you have done previously, which is kind of a weird thing. And even, you know, even if you do want to set up some sort of comm or segment, it's only going to give you the personal best from your own particular rides. So you would have to know from Strava what the actual time and distance is for the real life comm. It's only pulling information from your own rides in the past. So it is what it is. I don't think I'm going to use this feature, but it does work when you get close to the segment. It definitely will let you know, like, hey, you are close to your own personal best live Strava thingy. But just know that none of the data is going to be pulled from any actual comms or sprint segments, climbing segments, specifically from Strava. Now, another feature that you can find on this iGPSPORT device is it does have a real-time climbing feature. Garmin and Wahoo, they also have this feature, and this one has it as well. The difference is on this one is it will only work unless you have a route loaded up and you are actively on that route. So if you're just out and about and you just happen to come to a climb, it's not going to magically detect that climb. So just know that's not going to work. And I know this to be the fact is because I was on a ride this past weekend and I did not have the route loaded. Maybe others on the route did, but I don't think that they did. And we approached the climb and I can hear everyone else's Wahoo bolts beeping and detecting to let us know that a climb is approaching. And it did not do that on my computer. And iGPSPORT says that this is how it's intended to work. Got boats out in the background. Anyway, so iGPSPORT says that this is how it's supposed to work. So unless you load the route, you're not going to be able to detect when the climb is ahead. So those are basically the three main negatives I had. Like I said, these may not affect your ride, but they are something to consider. I do think that 2 of the 3 issues are things that I think that iGPSPORT should be able to update with later firmware. I think the way the navigation works, as far as it being clunky and have to go through so many menus to load the routes, I think that can be better through firmware. I think the live climb feature, I think that should be updated through firmware as well, to be able to just detect certain climbs that you're approaching in order to be ready for it. And even if it does detect the climb, it does not switch the menu over like it does on the Wahoo Bolt. So when you're on a Wahoo Bolt and you are climbing, it's going to automatically switch to that climb to let you know how you know, just basically that you are actively on the climb. And also too is when you load up the routes in the Wahoo Bolt, it will let you know, like, hey, there's going to be, say, 17 climbs on your route and you're just finishing 1 of 17, 2 of 17, etc. So that feature is I like, and I do think that's something that iGPSPORT in the future should be able to update with later firmware. Next up, let's talk about all the things that I do like about this computer mount. So the startup time when you power up the device, it's basically instant. My Wahoo Bolt, for example, it takes like sometimes 30 to 60 seconds to load up. So if you're in a rush, that's kind of a pain in the butt. So the loading time on the startup is really, really quick. I really do like the loading screen. I didn't realize how much I would enjoy it, but I actually enjoy it a lot. And there's just so much information that you can have just by having a bigger screen that you basically don't have to really swap through menus to get specific data points that you want. So I really, really appreciate the large screen. The brightness automatic feature on it works very, very well. I also really like that there are both physical and virtual buttons. Maybe if you're wearing gloves in the winter months, you may not want to be faffing around trying to click these virtual buttons. So it's nice to have physical buttons. That's a really nice feature as well. And even just when you first set up the bike computer, setting up all your pages, all the customization, that part of it is actually very, very intuitive. And I think iGPSPORT did a fantastic job when it comes to setting up all the various pages so that you can customize them in a way that is easy to use day in and day out. When it came to pairing all of my different devices, like the radar light, my power meters, all of my gearing and stuff, that was very, very easy and basically instant. And I will also mention that both Shimano Di2 and SRAM ETAP electronic group set pairing works very, very well. It's basically instant for setting it up. So that's one thing I also really, really appreciate as well. And just the overall battery life. Now, iGPSPORT says that this should give you up to 50 hours of battery life. And if you don't have a lot of standby time and you're just constantly riding, and you're not sitting at a coffee shop or anything like that, I think you could probably get 2 weeks worth probably 2 weeks worth. And of course, that's assuming you're riding 25 hours a week. But I think it's safe to say you should be able to get 20 hours or 2 weeks worth of this in real time. I'll continue to test this later on, but yeah, I think the battery life on this is really good. And the previous versions of these devices, like the lower tier ones and the lower models, I've gotten fantastic battery life out of them, and they were smaller than this device. Sorry guys, I know a lot of this video is basically just me pointing to the computer. You know what I look like. I'm ugly, so you don't really need to see my face. But this is the page I have set up for my day-to-day riding. I have all the things I would need. So of course, the speed, distance, the ride time. I'm not wearing a heart rate monitor. I have gears for both Di2 and Shimano E-Tap, calories, average power, speed, all that stuff. And it's nice because the screen is so big that I can get everything I need in one main screen, and I don't have to switch between I don't have to switch between pages or have to either zoom in or zoom out like I would with my Wahoo Bolt. There's just so much real estate space that I can have everything that I need. And then the next page I have is my lap counter. So if when I'm doing my intervals, I have everything set up that way because I'm really only interested in power, not so much the speed or anything like that. Then of course you have another one for lap counter, and you can always add or remove pages. You don't need all of this. You have this stuff too for other sort of data points. You have heart rate, another page, navigation. It's really good. So I would say when it comes to just the intuitiveness of the day-to-day functions, the size of the screen, all that stuff, this works very, very well. I think that iGPSPORT, they do have a little bit of work to do when it comes to the app on their mobile phone, as well as just some of the user features, like I said, with the KOM segments for the Strava or lack of Strava and the climbing feature. But again, those two things may not be important to everyone, but they are important to me, especially if I am riding in areas that I'm unfamiliar with. It's nice to just have those climbing features and those sprint segments be able to be loaded up automatically without having to faff around with different pages and menus. So for $360, this device is competing with the likes of the flagship devices from Wahoo and from Garmin, and you do get a lot. You get a very large display, full color. You get both touch buttons, or like physical buttons, as far as touchscreen as well. You get very comprehensive menus. You get to really set up your pages and customize them in a way that works for you. So you definitely get a lot for your money, especially if you are comparing this to the main brands out on the market today. I do think that for the price point, I think one of the things that it is lacking in the user interface, the day-to-day functions like that. And I think the majority of these issues can be updated with firmware from iGPSPORT. But this is a really good contender, especially if you are looking for a device like this for this size, the battery life, and then you are on a budget and you don't want to spend $450 or $500 on a device. I think that this is a really good rollout from iGPSPORT. Funny enough, when they sent me this device, they were just like, oh, can you get this video done in like a week and a half? And I'm thinking like a week and a half is not long enough to give my full absolute feedback on this. So of course, this is just a first initial impressions on it. So thank you to iGPSPORT for sending me out this 800 device. But stay tuned later in the summer, guys, as I will have more thoughts on this device. But as always, questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them down below, and I'm gonna check you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.